The Lord be with you. Let us pray. O God of peace, who has taught us that in returning and rest we shall be saved, and quietness and confidence shall be our strength. By the might of your Spirit lift us, we pray, to your presence where we may be still and know that you are God. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. Good morning. It's good to see all of you. I'm glad that you're here and can be part of this forum today. Just one more announcement about the upcoming garden party. There's information about it and an opportunity to register or sign up for it on the table behind you. It is on May the 28th, and as I hope you know, it's not only a great time to be together, wonderful food, wonderful fellowship, but also a great way that we have to help support those who are in need in this community or in this area. And all of the proceeds from the garden party will be directed to help support those who are experiencing food insecurity, specifically through the kitchens, the food kitchens of St. John's Episcopal Church, Trinity Episcopal Church, and All Saints and Ascension. So I encourage you to come and be part of that. And if you cannot attend, I also would invite you to consider at least supporting it in some way so that we can help again support those who are in need. So for the last several weeks, on Wednesday evenings, we have been talking, I've invited some people in from different places and different walks of professional life to talk about how it is that they integrate their professional lives and their lives with their faith. And then last week, during this time, there were a couple of members of this church who shared some of their story and their faith journey and how they do that. And so I thought it would be interesting for us today to hear from Jay Kanzler. As many of you know, Jay is a very full-time lawyer who then dresses up occasionally and shows up and works as a priest. But Jay would be what is referred to as a bivocational priest. In other words, his primary vocation is secular, but he is but as a priest, he serves the church and specifically serves here at St. Peter's. But in addition to his work as a lawyer, is also, some of you may know, Jay has his fingers and hands in many places. And the more I hear about the different things that he does, the more intrigued I am with his background and with the way that I think that he does, in a very effective way, integrate his life as a person of faith and specifically as a priest into what he does professionally. So Jay's going to share a little bit with you about how he has done that and some of the things he's been involved with. And I don't think there's anything else I need to say about you. You know everybody here, don't you?
I do.
Thanks, Jay.
Thank you all. Thank you, David. Maybe a little optimistic when you say interesting. Let me start by saying thank you for those that are here, and thank you for spending time. And I want to thank you for my opportunity to be a part of this congregation. David said I'm bivocational, but you know, you're not a part-time priest ever. You're a priest if you're not a priest. You know, and I am a priest, and I love being here, and I love doing whatever needs to be done here, and I love filling in behind all the folks that do all the real hard work here. And I got the best gig in the world when it comes to St. Peter's, so thank you for letting me have that. I truly enjoy it. I am also a full-time lawyer, and as I get started here, I want to tell you, I hope nobody takes anything I say here as though I'm telling you how you should do things, okay? If you know what imposter syndrome is, I suffer from imposter syndrome like you wouldn't believe, okay? I just do. But I have had, you know, I would say the great honor of being around other people and doing things. For those of you who heard my sermon this morning, I talked a little bit about expanding our circles, okay? I have truly expanded my circle, not necessarily by choice, but by circumstance, so that many of my clients are immigrants. half, first, second generation immigrants. Many of my clients have their businesses in North St. Louis or up in North St. Louis County in economically challenged areas. In the last 7 or 8 years, I've taken on an increasingly heavy load of criminal cases for the Public Defender's Office. Most of my clients are addicted to drugs, have all kinds of issues going on, and I've spent a lot of time with them. And as I have expanded that circle, it has become clear to me the overwhelming need that is out there. And I guess I look at it this way. I mean, am I helping someone today? Okay? Am I really helping someone today? That's what I keep asking myself when I'm trying to do something, think of what I need to do. Okay? But here's the thing. If you're going to help people, okay, you want to go out and help people, and you want to expand your services, your circle, you got to accept the people on their terms, right? Lots of times, my criminal clients don't show up for court, okay? Their sense of time, their sense of priority, their sense is different, maybe, than ours. If you had to go to court, you'd be at court, right? Some of you'd be there an hour early. People say, well, doesn't that make you angry? You know, you showed up, they didn't. And initially it would be frustrating, then I realized, no. If I'm going to help these folks, right, then I have to say, I'm willing to help you, even though you don't show up to court sometimes. Okay? You know, I don't know either. There are lots of cars that are breaking down these days, or it's only my clients, okay? Car broke down. You can't judge people on your terms. You can't help people on your terms. Right? You have to accept those folks, right? And I tell people that if I thought it was going to be easy, in the sense that these were going to be normal folks, I wouldn't be doing this, right? Because they wouldn't need my help. Most are addicted to drugs. I can't tell you the number of clients that I have with track marks and no teeth, and just, you know, I mean, that's all they've known for years, sometimes 10 years or more. Okay? That's fine. They made choices, right? There are consequences for those choices. That's not the point. The point is, what are we going to do to help them right now, where they are? Okay? So, I have a young associate who says, you know, a client will call and say, man, he lied to me. The client lied to me. That makes me angry when the client lies to me. I get lied to 20 times a day. Okay? Clients, you know, that come to me with problems, not just the criminal clients, but others, yeah, they're scared, they're angry, they're in trouble. Surprise, surprise, sometimes they lie because of that, right? So if I get angry and say, well, that's it, okay? I'm not representing you, you lied to me. No, it's a way of working through that. And again, it is meeting these folks. I come from a background decades ago where I had addiction issues, okay? And I got through those. I recognize that, and I have at least some recollection of what it was like to, you know, maybe do things that weren't always the best decisions, right? And I got second chances. And that's what you're out there trying to do for these folks. Second chances, third chances, fourth chances. See, that's what God, okay, calls me to do, calls all of us to do. Not to judge, right? I don't judge them because they lied to me. I don't judge them because they don't show up to court. I don't judge them because they use drugs. Don't condone it. But my job at that moment is not to judge them. There's a judge that's going to judge them, right? Sometimes harshly. But that's not my job. My faith calls me to find a way to make their life better. Am I helping someone today? And that's, and again, please, I am no better than anyone. Trust me, that's not what I'm saying. But there are opportunities for all of us. I think sometimes we think that, we're out there helping, but we're not really opening ourselves up to what people need at that point in time, right? When sometimes I would go out, one of the areas hardest hit by the tornado was up around Del Mar and Kings Highway. And over the years, we've spent a lot of time, another minister and me and some people walking in that neighborhood and trying to help the homeless and the prostitutes, the drug addicts. And you go up there and we'll take food, sometimes we'll take clothes, we'll take stuff. And so we're handing out food, and somebody will come in, can I have another sandwich? Can I have 4 sandwiches? No, you greedy little. No. Okay. It's not. That's me judging, right? Who am I to say that he doesn't need 10 sandwiches, right? Maybe he hasn't eaten a sandwich in 2 days. Maybe he has some friends that need a sandwich. It's not my job to judge him. You can have 4 sandwiches. Now, sometimes if there's 5 people and 5 sandwiches, down at the end, we'll say, maybe we should divide these up. But it's not about saying no. Up in that neighborhood, I'm usually the only person with light skin. And it's often, sometimes I'm not treated particularly well because they don't trust me. Right? I say, well, look at me. I'm up here, right? Isn't that enough for you? Look at me, I'm walking, I got sandwiches, I got Narcan, I got some water. These are folks that have not had particularly good experiences with folks like me. Okay? So I have to understand that. I have to understand that there's some hesitancy. And I'm not up there to be thanked. Oftentimes people will give you a hug, right? Sometimes they'll take the sandwich, they'll turn around and walk away. One guy threatened to kill me. So what? Again, not so what, but that's it. I'm not there saying, well, you ungrateful little. No, it's really, and to me, it is those opportunities, and that didn't come, that came with 30 plus years of doing this. I'm not the same person I was as a lawyer 30 years ago. My faith was not nearly as big a part of my job back then. But the great thing about growing old is that you learn, hopefully. And if there's anything that that I can kind of say here today, it's that find those opportunities, right? Be around people, expand that circle. Okay? And not just one time. It takes time. When we were walking up in North St. Louis, we used to go down this street called Albert, and the drug dealers had 2 different corners of the street. And obviously, they were a little skeptical of what we were doing up there. Were we with the police? Why were we there? But we came back week after week. We offered them sandwiches. And after a while, it was just, we were there. We were accepted. Right? They didn't even give us money. Here's a little donation, a little something for the effort. But it's that spending the time, being present. Being present is half the battle. That shows a level of commitment, of trust, of love. I talk a lot about love one another. I know you get sick of hearing it. But the Bible talks about it all the time. And love is not, oh, my heart goes out to you. Love is being there for people when they need help. Love is presence when people are lonely. Love is, a kind word to somebody that is down. And it doesn't have to be much. Literally, just sitting with someone, being with someone can be enough. And there's not anyone in this room, none of us, that can't be there occasionally for someone, right? And I'm not suggesting that we all jump in our cars and head up to North St. Louis, right, and find somebody out on the street and be there with them. But what I am saying is that if there are opportunities to meet new people, if there are opportunities to help new people, okay? When we talk about, in this, my sermon today, I talk about, love bringing in people into the church. Just making an offer is good, but it's usually not accepted. We know that. Okay? We know how many folks end up in our church, right? We know the efforts that we've done in reaching out, but sometimes it takes more. Maybe we need to just be with these folks for a while. And in being with them, we show them that we love them. And when we love them, they trust us, and then we're part of the same family. And while it sounds all silly and corny, but I do believe that. I mean, at my very core. Now, I feel the imposter syndrome in me tells me that I have to say, yeah, I mean, there are lots of times that I get angry. There's lots of times that I swear like a sailor. There's lots of times where, maybe I get frustrated. That happens with all of us, right? But then you got to step back and say, okay, now what? Now what am I going to do? Okay? Am I helping someone today? If you have 3 choices of things to do this week, and one of them includes helping someone, I encourage you to make that choice. And I encourage you to reach out to people. You don't have to go, I want people to get outside their circle, but I want people to also work within their circle. Right? I say this, can you pick up a telephone? Then you can love someone. Can you email someone? Yeah, then you can love them. Because they need that. They want to hear from you. Can you check on your neighbor whose tree is down, whose electricity is out? Sure. Okay. I don't know my neighbor. They're going to think I'm crazy banging on the door. No, they won't. They'll think you love them. So, I don't know if that was at all helpful. I'm happy to, answer any questions about the things that I've done or what it's like. People call me the most conflicted man in America, okay? Because there is the legal side. How can you be a lawyer and a priest? I don't know. Silos, I guess. But I don't see them as a big difference. They both give me opportunities to help. And I think that's what it's all about.
So Jay, obviously some parts of the administration of the law are about justice, about retribution. How do you find that balance between that and what you're just talking about?
So I had the court reporter, I had a deposition the other day, and the court reporter saying, wow, how do you do that, Jay? I mean, what about the victims, right? And I say, I feel for the victims. I pray for the victims. I hurt for the victims. But in the role of all of this, the victims have the prosecutors, they have the victim, the people that deal with the victims. They have a system that is there to address their needs. Okay? Poor criminal defendants have no one. They have me. That's it. Usually they don't have family, not family that's in a position to help them. And my job is to see about helping them the best that I can. Okay? I struggle. I could never be a judge. Okay? And to this point, David, the retribution point, I could never be a judge. People come up to me and go, listen, I promise. I know I've been here 5 times, but this time I promise you. All right, okay, I'm going to believe you this time. I'm not good at that. Okay? I want to take people at their word. I want to believe that people are going to get better. And my job is to try to find, I spend a lot of my time with the folks that have been charged with stealing or drugs, because it's usually stealing to get drugs, in the drugs, trying to find treatment for them. Right? That's not my job, but it is my job. I can get them out on probation. I can get them back out on the street tomorrow, and they will be back in trouble within a week. Because you know why? Everything in their body, every nerve ending that they have says, find fentanyl, find methamphetamine, okay? It's not a choice when you are an addict. Your body, they call it dope sick, your body is just screaming for that. And so I spent a lot of time trying to find treatment. Now, surprise, surprise, they don't have Anthem, Blue Cross Blue Shield insurance usually, okay? They got nothing. So you have to find these things. But on the other hand, sometimes I have to say to them, guys, you know, you shot someone, okay? There are consequences for that. But it's not the end. There are other things. You know, yeah, you're going to do some time, but you can get out. And maybe, again, back to the most conflicted man in America, that's hard sometimes to look over there. I've had people, usually in the child cases, where people have come up to me and cursed me out. And then I just say, I'm so sorry for, you know, what you're going through. You have to, because I feel for them. But it's just not my job. I have a responsibility, not only a legal one, but I think an ethical one. You know, I've chosen to see if I can help that person. You know, some people might say, well, you made the wrong choice. But there aren't a lot of people interested in helping that group. I think it's an honor to do so.
So Jesus talks a lot about not only loving one another, but loving our enemies, loving those who hate you, and also forgiveness. Can you say a little bit about how you see that come into play in the work you do, or not come into play?
Right. Forgiveness. I don't see a lot of forgiveness out there, folks. I mean, I really don't. Not like I hoped. I wish I would. And maybe I'm not the best at forgiveness either. That's one area that is hard. I think it's hard for all of us. You know, Jesus talks about turning the other cheek and forgiveness, and I mean that means in those circumstances where it really, really is hard. Right? And I don't know, you know, there's no other easier option. Right? I mean, it is about forgiveness. And when I get to the sentencings, often in these cases, you have your victim impact statements, and I see people, and I get up there, and it's just heart-wrenching, right? But sometimes then it deviates into, I hope you burn in hell, okay? I hope, you know, your roommate Bubba takes care of you while you're up there. I mean, just some of the nastiest things. And on the one hand, I get where they're coming from. Maybe, you know, a loved one has been taken from them. And worse yet, a child has been taken from them. I don't ever want to experience that feeling. But, you know, as Christians, we are meant to forgive. And that's just part of the deal, folks. You know, just like loving your neighbor, forgiveness is part of it. And I sometimes hope that they find forgiveness, because, you know, that sense eats you up. It does. It eats you up inside if you don't find a way to kind of come to terms with it. You don't have to wish them the best of luck, good luck on your journey. But, you know, I hope you die in hell. You know, that's eating you up as much, I think, as it is, you know, doing anything to them.
I just wonder, I understand.
Diane, hold on just 1 second. So we recorded these, so we get the microphone to you.
I was just wondering, I understand everything that you're saying, and I understand the problems that they have, the addiction, but at what point does personal responsibility come into play?
I mean, good point. And I don't know. I don't think there's a bright line, right? But I will tell you, for me, it was much further than I thought it was, right? I mean, you know, I thought, here, I should cut them off, right? Because it's their problem. And then I realized that wasn't good enough. The line had to come over here, and then it had to come over here. Because it's not my position to judge. If I'm trying to get that person into a better position, then I have to try, and I have to try, and I have to try. Giving up on them, that's failure. Right? If I can move them just a little bit, maybe they get clean for a little bit. Maybe they get a house. Maybe they get a job. Maybe they don't do it again. Let me tell you, I hear this all the time with my clients that are on food stamps or welfare or that are on drugs or they're abusing the system. Did you look at their TV set? Yeah, look at that TV set. Well, first of all, you can get a TV set the size of this whole basement down here for about $200, right? So it's not like, but there isn't a one of them, not a one of them, that would give up their public assistance, would give up, whatever help they're getting from the government, if they could somehow manage to put their life together and get a job and have an apartment and be in a family. We're talking about families that have gone through decades. I mean, generation after generation after generation of the same thing happening over and over again. That's what they know. And not they, those people, the folks that I come into contact with. And sometimes the answer is, they really don't know what it means truly to be personally responsible. At a very core, right and wrong is there, but even those lines get blurred. Is it okay to sell drugs if I have to pay the rent? I mean, it's only marijuana, right? And they're selling it anyway. Is it okay to shoplift if I need clothes for the kid? Right, wrong? I mean, it's hard. So I don't know where that line is. At some point, you're going to draw it, and you're going to say, I've done the best that I can, but I don't like to get there. I like to keep trying. And now, I've had some guys fire me. That's okay. Forced to give up. But you just, again, I'm not there to judge.
Say a little bit more about the ministry that you referenced a minute ago that takes you out onto the streets.
Yeah.
The name of it and
Yes,
what's
it's called
involved.
Nightlife, and we've had a little setback. The leader of it, Reverend Ken McCoy, has had some health problems, and so we haven't been out there walking. But it all started as a response to the killings in North St. Louis and around the area. The idea that we need to do something, just presence, and the hope was that it would kind of generate. It would be a grassroots, and people would get out there. And truly, what we found is that it's probably just going to be us. So we will go out 11 o'clock. In fact, we were going to go out Friday night, but the neighborhood got knocked down. So they're going to need even more. We go out, and that's when folks are out there, right? The folks that need your help are not 9 to 5 folks, okay? Their world is, 10 p.m. to 3, 4 in the morning. And we go out, and we take Narcan. We take, in the wintertime, we'll take clothes. We take food. We take water. But one of the things is, it is just the presence. Right? Jesus was always present with people, right? Gathering people together. And not just, he didn't just hang around with the 12 disciples and say, all right, let's sit around and talk about how good we are, how much good we're doing. No, it was out there and helping them. And so, that's what we're doing. Now, sometimes they will come to you and say, I've had it. I got to get off the streets. And occasionally, we've been able to help people, so we will find a place for them. We will, sometimes you're able to find a job for them. Sometimes you're able to find, hey, your foot's about to fall off. Let's find someplace, a clinic, let's find Medicaid for you. It's a cup of water out of the ocean stuff, folks, but, that's what you do. And again, they're not always grateful. There was one neighborhood we went into, and 3 folks wandered around, then finally we get back to the parking lot, and I'm walking in my car, and 3 bullets go whizzing by my head. And it was just from like where the restroom is over there, it was from behind the bushes. And it was 3 warning shots, right? They could have shot me if they wanted to. It was meant to say, well, what are you doing in our neighborhood? Okay, so you're not always welcome, but oftentimes you are, and just a little bit that we can do really makes a difference.
What you said, Jay, rings so true. When I was teaching, I taught primarily up north. Most of the children were very disadvantaged, primarily black. I didn't care, it didn't matter. The first time I went to the school, and the schools were all black, you know, they kind of looked at me kind of wary. They didn't trust me at that time. But like you said, I went back again and again and again. And the second time I came back, they looked at me and they go, "You're back." And I go, "Yes." And then, you know, somebody was going to do something, I don't know what, and they're like, "No, she's okay. She's all right." You know, I had a rapport going with them so that they trusted me. And the one said, "How come you're so nice to us? Why do you treat us like that? Just, you know, you don't even know us." And I said, "Because I look at you like you're my children." And I said, "I treat you like I would want to be treated." And I said, "You're like my family." And they just kind of looked at me. And when I said, "Well, I'm sorry, but that's the way it is." So I said, "I really like you, you know." And I said, "I may not like what you do sometimes, but I like you as a person." And I went back there many, many times, and you could feel the rapport. I mean, you could really feel it. And it got where certain kids would stick up for you if somebody else was going to do something. "Oh, don't do that, you know, she's okay," you know. But you do have to meet them, as you said, at their level. You accept them for what they are, and you try to help them.
Yeah,
Sometimes
absolutely.
they appreciate it, sometimes they don't.
I want to make one point real clear, that it may sound like I'm talking about a black and white issue here, like, that just happens to be where I spend a fair amount of my time. But I also have cases from Jeffco Mo and, you know, down in Cape Girardeau, and you know, the same things I am describing are happening down there, okay? It's not, you know, when I say they, them, it is not black, white, it is a humanity issue. It just depends on what part of Missouri you're in, or Illinois, that may dictate, based on demographics, whether it's black or white. But it has nothing to do with race. It has everything to do with what's going on out there.
Jay, you talked about expanding our circle. And for most of us to expand our circle in the way you're describing, with that population, it's very difficult. One thing that all of us have experienced are people standing on the corner and needing help. And I think for most of us, our reaction is not very friendly. For example, well, either they're put out of the party to milk us out of our money, or they deserve what they get. The comparison I always make is thinking of myself as a sinner. I've done some dumb things, and yet God always is there with His grace, forgiving me. Who am I to judge, to pick up the words of St. Francis? Who am I to judge that person standing on the corner that needs help?
Thank you. That's wonderful. I'm going to say, yes, David, until David yanks my microphone away here. But you did raise an issue. Where are chances to expand our circle, right? And I'm not suggesting You know, you can come out with me some Friday night. It's probably not, you know, you're welcome to. The night that I got shot at, we had a whole group from Bonham Presbyterian Church. They never came back. But think of things within the diocese, even if you're comfortable. Like down at the cathedral, there are things that are going on there. Trinity Food Bank, right? Trinity. We give bags and bags and bags of food. You know what they would love, probably? I don't know. You know, if you go down there and say, you want to hand it out? You want to just hang out with people? Presents, right? Just hang out with them. Sit down next to them. They're going to look at you weird, like, why are you sitting next to me? So, just having a meal. I don't know, there's lots and lots of things. You don't have to go out onto the you know, some hostile neighborhood in the middle of the night. But look for things that where there's a level of comfort and safety that are expanded. And don't just go once like you're going to the zoo, right? Go twice or 3 times. And they're going to say, wow, that person came back again. You know, build a presence. That's really where the love begins.
Anything else for Jay?
And for those of you lucky, more Jay upstairs.
Jay, thank you for taking time to share this with us. I appreciate you and your ministry. Well, thank you all for being part of this, and God bless you.